Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 10 Part 83 based on novel. So let's start. Chaotic Demon Sea, Northern Sea Region. Over the last year, this vast sea region was basically the front line of the war between the Devil Prison and the Chaotic Demon Sea Alliance. Both parties had fought dozens of battles in this region, and every battle was an earth-shaking one. In fact, the entire ocean was dyed blood red, while the sky was filled with demonic aura. Currently, this sea region was still the bloodiest place across the entire Chaotic Demon Sea. This was because both parties were engaged in a decisive battle in this region. In order for the Chaotic Demon Sea Alliance to free up its forces and assist the two other great alliances, they had to end the war in the Chaotic Demon Sea as soon as possible. Meanwhile, the Devil Prison had issued the harshest order to the Yimo in this region, and they were to stop the Chaotic Demon Sea Alliance at any cost. Hence, the most intense and fearsome battle over the last year erupted once again. Bang bang! Demonic aura surged in all directions while countless formidable yuan power blew apart. At a cursory glance, one could see numerous glowing figures charging towards the Devil Prison army together with a fearsome and monstrous killing intent. Two massive torrents collided against each other, before battle cries echoed across the sky. On the ocean, huge waves that were hundreds of thousands of feet in size rose and fell. However, the loud rumbling noises could not cover the bloodthirsty battle cries. Tang Xinlian was standing in the sky behind the endless sea of Alliance army troops. Currently, she was wearing a tight red soft armor which showcased her well-proportioned body and highlighted her alluring curves. As of now, her beautiful face was focused intently on this battlefield. Her clear and cold cries were wrapped with yuan power, before they were continuously sent into the distance, commanding the entire Alliance army in the process. Alliance Chief, it seems like the Yimo have gone crazy and they are far too persistent. Standing beside Tang Xinlian, an old man said with a grave expression on his face. A cold glint flashed across Tang Xinlian's eyes before she said, "Send an absolute order. This time around, we must finish off the Devil Prison army in the Chaotic Demon Sea. The headquarters of the Devil Prison has already been revealed. Therefore, the reason why the Yimo armies are fighting to their death is likely because they had received an order from their headquarters. Moreover, it is clear that the Devil Prison is planning to sacrifice these troops in order to stall our Alliance army. Since they are willing to pay such a hefty price, the Devil Prison must be using this opportunity to make certain preparations. Therefore, we must act with haste." When he heard her words, that old man felt his heart shudder before he quickly acknowledged. He was also a top expert within the Chaotic Demon Sea, and in fact, in terms of seniority, he was ranked even higher than Mo Luo. However, over the last year, ever since Tang Xinlian took control of the Chaotic Demon Sea Alliance, the situation had slowly turned for the better. Therefore, her abilities were now widely acknowledged and no one in the entire Chaotic Demon Sea disobeyed her orders. Many orders swiftly spread throughout the Alliance army. Following which, a scarlet-red expression appeared in the eyes of countless experts. After all, far too many people from their side were killed by the Devil Prison over the last year, and this grudge could never be buried. Since it could never be buried, they would completely exterminate the Yimo instead. Charge! An earth-shaking roar resounded, before countless experts charged forward like a torrent. Their majestic yuan power completely shattered all the Yimo at the front. The entire place turned scarlet. With a cold expression on her pretty face, Tang Xinlian stared at the battlefield. Soon after, she turned her attention towards the sky. That was the place where the elites from both sides were fighting at. Although there was only a small number of people involved, the outcome of that fight would have an extremely huge impact on the overall battle. The battleground in the sky consisted only of experts who had stepped into the reincarnation stage. Meanwhile, their opponents were all creatures that were ranked at or above the Yimo kings. In fact, there were many true kings as well. Fortunately, these troublesome fellows were all stopped by the top experts from the Alliance. I wonder if Elder Qingxi is able to hold on. Tang Xinlian clenched her jade-like hands before she looked at the highest part of this battlefield. Currently, frightening ripples were being emitted from that spot. Meanwhile, a green-cloaked figure was present within the clouds. Standing opposite him was a 10,000 feet large giant Yimo. This Yimo looked extremely fearsome, and there were a dozen over large eyes on its body. Meanwhile, fearsome and brutal fluctuations radiated from within its body. This gruesome Yimo was formed from the merger of 10 true kings from the devil prison. After the merger, the newly created Yimo was extremely frightening. In fact, it was comparable to a peak expert who had passed 2 reincarnation tribulations. As such, it was likely that within the chaotic Demon Sea Alliance, only Qingji could stop a creature like that. Clearly, the Yimo army was using everything they had in order to stop the chaotic Demon Sea Alliance army from destroying them. Roar? Currently, Qingji had an extremely solemn expression on his face. Following which, green light swept out from within his body in all directions, before his body actually began to swell wildly. In a short period of time, his clothes were all in tatters. Meanwhile, Qingji has transformed into a 10,000 feet large dragon-like human. Green scales covered his entire body, while a cold light glimmered on them. Moreover, the green veins on his dragon arms were wiggling like tiny dragons, while tens of thousands of green dragon-like tattoos circled around his body as they bellowed. The green heaven materialized dragon skill was created by Qingji. Therefore, when he executed this martial arts, its strength would blow anyone's mind. Roar? Qingji was hovering in the sky. The space itself was shattered as he transformed into a green ray of light and shot towards the ferocious giant devil. His dragon fist whistled before tens of thousands of dragon-like tattoos surged. After which, they landed on that huge devil's body with lightning-like speed. Bang bang bang. Up against Qingji's fearsome attacks, that huge devil roared towards the sky, before it swung its sharp devil claws ruthlessly. In fact, it showed no signs of retreating as it chose to clash head-on with Qingji instead. 2 massive creatures were brawling in the sky. They did not use any special techniques. Instead, they relied on their frightening strength, which could even cause the space itself to explode. The low and deep sound of fist meeting fist even drowned the battle cries from all over the place. Qingji's sharp dragon claw ruthlessly swiped the enormous devil's body. Promptly, a piece of its flesh, that was dripping with black blood, was forcefully ripped off. The moment its flesh was ripped off, that huge devil released a loud roar before it landed a punch on Qingji's body. The force behind that punch shattered the green dragon scales on Qingji's body and sent the latter flying by over 10,000 feet. Traces of blood climbed into Qingji's dragon eyes. His back shook, before a pair of huge green dragon wings, which was tens of thousands of feet in size, was extended. Then, he flapped his dragon wings before he collided with that huge devil once again. Tang Xinlian was observing the frightening fight in the sky. Suddenly, her pretty eyes hardened before she cried out in a cold voice, "Third unit, attack!" Right after she spoke, monstrous killing intent suddenly erupted from a distance far behind the Yimo army. After which, numerous practitioners charged towards them in all directions like sharp blades, and they actually split the Yimo army into 2. This sudden reinforcement also boosted the morale of the Alliance army. After which, they gradually gained the upper hand. At this moment, the Yimo army also realized that something was amiss. All of a sudden, an earth-shaking roar sounded. Meanwhile, that roar was filled with endless violence and madness. That roar reverberated across the place. After which, the bodies of the elite Yimo in the sky suddenly blew apart. Following which, they transformed into black rays of light before they shot into the huge devil body high in the sky, which was currently engaging in a fearsome brawl with Qingji. Roar? After that huge devil suddenly received a frightening influx of energy, its massive 100,000 feet large body actually began to swell once again. In fact, large bloody scars appeared on the surface of its body. Clearly, it was beginning to buckle under the strain. Bang! The humongous devil released a stern roar before it threw a punch forward. That punch penetrated through the air before it ruthlessly landed on Qingji's body, sending the latter flying. Meanwhile, the dragon scales on Qingji's body were blasted apart while fresh blood flowed continuously. Evidently, the Yimo army had gone crazy. This humongous devil, which was formed from the merger of numerous Yimo, was likely equivalent to a peak expert who had passed 3 reincarnation tribulations. However, this was also its limit. If they continued to add more Yimo, it was likely that this humongous devil would self-destruct because it was unable to handle the strain. Moreover, even if these Yimo managed to win the fight, there was no way they could survive. In essence, they were sacrificing their lives to stall the Alliance army. Roar! When Qingji saw this, murderous desire erupted within his eyes. Following which, he emitted a roar from his dragon mouth, before green light swept across the place and he once again charged forward. Immediately, tens of thousands of dragon-like tattoos transformed into 100,000 feet large green dragon, before it roared and charged wildly towards the large devil. After all, there was no way Qingji could retreat at this juncture. If he did so, it would allow this humongous devil to charge into the Alliance army, which would definitely lead to massive casualties. The huge devil also roared wildly. Then, he stared at Qingji, who was charging over. Immediately, an endless amount of black blood began to gather at its huge mouth and palm. Finally, with a loud bang, the black blood directly transformed into a black ray of light, before it smashed onto Qingji's body with lightning-like speed. Bang! Qingji's dragon scales were instantly shattered. After which, his huge body flew backwards in front of countless pairs of shocked eyes from the Alliance army. In fact, a large bloody hole had appeared on his shoulder. Die? A roar, which was filled with murderous desire and brutality, was emitted from the huge devil's mouth. Following which, his exceptionally sharp devil palm whizzed forward before it ruthlessly smashed towards Qingji. From the looks of it, the devil clearly wanted to kill Qingji. Help him! Anxious, furious roars were emitted from those top experts from the Alliance. Following which, monstrous Yuan power pillars shot forward in an attempt to block that huge devil. However, the latter completely ignored them. Instead, that huge devil allowed those attacks to land on its body, causing it to tremble violently. That devil palm slammed down mercilessly before it ruthlessly struck Qingji. However, just as the crowd had resigned themselves to stare helpless and wait for Qingji to suffer a heavy blow, a low and deep noise suddenly sounded in the sky. Immediately, that descending devil palm froze. What's that? Countless individuals were startled. Then, they quickly looked above Qingji before they saw a figure standing in the air. That man extended his right hand before he gently blocked that huge devil palm. There was a startling contrast in their size. However, owing to that man's skinny palm, that humongous devil was unable to budge. Tang Xinlian looked at that familiar-looking skinny figure. First, she was startled. However, soon after, wild joy spread on her pretty face. Lindong? In the sky, there was a skinny figure hovering in mid-air below that huge devil palm. His skinny-looking body contained a frightening amount of power, as he easily intercepted that devil palm. Is that Elder Lindong? Some members of the Chaotic Demon Sea Alliance exclaimed in shock. Ever since the alliance was established 1 year ago, Lindong had went missing and it was rumored that he went into a cultivation seclusion. Unexpectedly, he had actually showed up at a critical moment like this. He arrived just in time. Currently, Tang Xinlian's pretty face was plastered with joy. Right now, the entire place was a battlefield. However, on the whole, there were no top experts from either party in the 3 battlefields. This was because the strongest individuals from the Devil Prison were all in the Western Xian region under the watchful eyes of the Ancient Masters. In the same vein, the Ancient Masters were unable to lend a hand to this fight. Therefore, after Lindong showed up, it would undoubtedly help their side immensely. Elder Qingji, you all right? After he stopped the devil palm, Lindong tilted his head to look at Qingji, who was standing behind him, before he asked. Green light was glimmering on Qingji's body. After which, he slowly turned back into human form before he wiped off the trace of blood on the corner of his lips. Following which, he gave a bitter smile towards Lindong before he said, "Have you left your seclusion?" Lindong nodded. With a smile, he said, "Leave this big fella to me." Qingji did not object to this. Currently, though Lindong's body did not give off any fluctuations, Qingji vaguely caught a whiff of an extremely dangerous aura. Clearly, after spending 1 year in a cultivation seclusion, Lin Dong's strength had soared to a level beyond his comprehension. This transformation caused him to sigh while feeling pleased at the same time. He recalled that the first time he met Lin Dong, the latter was merely a young man who had stood out in the Small Hundred Empire War. At that time, he realized that Lin Dong was quite talented and decided to teach him the Green Heaven materialized dragon skill. However, who could have imagined that after many years, that young man from before had actually surpassed him? Be careful. This huge devil was created after the merger of over a dozen true kings. Although it cannot survive for long, it is extremely violent. Qingxi warned Lin Dong. Subsequently, he descended before he protected the many experts from the alliance. A merged Yumoha. Lin Dong was not surprised by this fact. After all, this was similar to the way the three great heads of Yuan Gate fought. However, these Yumo were even more brutal and fearsome. Nevertheless, this should also be the limits of their merger. In fact, they would likely self-destruct if they forcefully added more individuals. Roar! That humongous devil withdrew its devil palm. Then, it used its brutal eyes to stare at Lin Dong before it released a furious roar. Immediately, black blood began to spurt out from within its massive body like a fountain. Following which, those blood wiggled before an extremely evil fluctuation was emitted. Devil blood whirled. A furious buzzing roar was emitted from the huge devil's fearsome large mouth. Soon after, the black blood actually began to spread abruptly. Then, just like a ball of light, it enveloped Lin Dong. After which, that blood ball quickly shrunk, before a frightening fluctuation swiftly gathered. In the blink of an eye, the blood ball was merely a couple of dozen feet in size. Meanwhile, Lin Dong's body was enveloped within. After which, that humongous devil suddenly clenched its fist as it tried to burst that blood ball in an attempt to kill Lin Dong. However, right before it could clench its devil palm, a long hand directly penetrated that blood ball with a loud splash. After which, Lin Dong ripped that blood ball, which was formed by gathering a terrifying amount of energy, into two pieces as though it was a thin piece of paper. Lin Dong smiled. With a flip of his palm, he sucked that shattered blood ball into his palm. As it slowly rotated, it turned into a fist-sized black bead. Go? Lin Dong flicked his finger before a trace of primal chaos light flashed across the surface of that black bead. Subsequently, that black bead transformed into a black ray of light before it streaked across the sky and struck the chest of that humongous devil. Though that black bead did not seem to possess much strength, the devil body, which could withstand an all-out attack from Qingxi, was directly penetrated by that tiny devil bead, before it burrowed deep within its body. Fool, are you trying to use our demonic aura to kill us? After that devil bead shot into that humongous devil body, the latter released a piercing loud laugh. This was because after the devil bead entered its body, it did not cause the slightest damage to it. Instead, it even allowed the demonic aura within its body to soar. Upon hearing this, Lin Dong gave a gentle smile before he gently clenched his hand and asked, "Is that so?" Bang! After Lin Dong clenched his hand, the wild and maniacal laughter from the huge devil suddenly ceased. Promptly, its huge body trembled violently before several primal chaos light rays shot out from within its body. Thanks to the primal chaos light, the endless demonic aura within the huge devil body were disappearing at an extremely frightening rate. Subsequently, the body of that huge devil split apart before dozens of devil figures fell out. After which, they vomited black blood violently. Lin Dong had forcefully pulled out these true kings, which had been merged together within the huge devil. After they were forced out, these true kings all had ashen expressions. Meanwhile, their eyes were filled with intense fear as they stared at Lin Dong. However, even before they could make a move, with no emotions on his face, Lin Dong had already made his move. Rumble! A lightning dragon streaked across the sky. This lightning dragon looked extremely lifelike and there were thunderbolts sparkling on its huge body. Compared to the lightning dragons from before, this dragon looked so real that it felt as though it was alive. Meanwhile, it gave off a relatively frightening aura. That lightning dragon charged downwards. Following which, everywhere it passed, the true kings were blasted apart one after another as miserable screeches sounded. Thunderbolt force spread before it removed the demonic aura completely. When the true king saw how brutal Lin Dong was, they began to flee immediately. When Lin Dong saw this, he swung his sleeve. Following which, several 10,000 feet large black holes appeared behind those true kings. After which, those black holes rotated before they devoured those Yumo just like a huge mouth. Within a short period of time, a dozen over true kings were completely eliminated by Lin Dong. This scene left countless individuals on the battlefield taken aback. After he got rid of those true kings, Lin Dong stared indifferently at the battlefield below. This was the first time he had ever witnessed such a huge battle. In fact, the battlefield basically encompassed the entire Northern Sea region. Demonic aura and Yuan power clashed wherever he looked. There were millions of Yumo here. Meanwhile, the Alliance army had a similar number of troops. Moreover, these were not ordinary troops as every single one of them was fairly skilled. A thought passed through Lin Dong's mind. Immediately, countless thunder clouds gathered in the sky. Following which, deafening rumbling noises echoed across the sky, drowning the battle cries from all over the place. You guys should have never came to this world. Thunderbolts surged. Lin Dong was standing in the sky as he looked nonchalantly at the numerous Yumo. Following which, an icy cold expression rose within his eyes before he said, "Therefore, all of you shall be purified. Perhaps, your souls can return to where they belong to." Rumble. The entire world trembled at this moment. The thunder cloud swelled before countless thunderbolts, which contained frightening amounts of thunderbolt strength, began to rain down wildly. Wherever the thunderbolts swept past, countless Yumo were vaporized even before they had the opportunity to scream. After receiving such a frightening attack, the fearsome Yumo army was demoralized. In fact, horror flashed across the eyes of some Yumo. After losing their true king commanders, it was clear that they were no longer as fearsome as before. Charge! A cold glint flashed across Tang Xinlian's pretty eyes. Immediately, she took advantage of the weakened Yumo army's morale as she shouted coldly. Promptly, monstrous killing intent erupted from within the Alliance army before it swept forth. Instantly, the Yumo army was battered by them. Nonetheless, these Yumo were indeed fearsome creatures. Even up against a situation like this, they continued to put up a firm resistance. At the same time, they continuously inflicted heavy casualties to the Alliance. Fresh blood dyed the ocean. However, after they lost the main fight, their all-out efforts clearly could not affect the overall battle. In the end, the Yumo army's resistance grew weaker and weaker. After they realized that defeat was certain, some cries erupted from within the Yumo army. Subsequently, countless Yumo charged towards the ocean. Clearly, they were planning to dive into the ocean to escape. These Yumo were extremely powerful. Therefore, it would be extremely troublesome if they escaped. However, when she saw that they were withdrawing, a cold smile flashed over Tang Xinlian's face. Following which, a cold voice resounded, "Sea Demon Army, do not allow any Yumo to escape." Bang! All of a sudden, countless large waves rose from beneath the ocean. After which, the ocean was seemingly split apart as countless sea demon soldiers mounting various sea monsters charged out from the bottom of the ocean. Faintly, there seemed to be an extremely large light formation at the bottom of the ocean, sealing off all exit paths from the ocean. Standing in the sky, Lin Dong stared at the Yumo army, which had been trapped, before he slowly relaxed his palm. Then, he lifted his thumb towards Tang Xinlian. She was as impressive as ever. Everything was arranged accordingly and she did not give the Yumo army the slightest chance to retreat. Standing amidst thousands of soldiers, when Tang Xinlian saw Lin Dong's action, a sleek red sexy lips lifted into a proud arc. After which, she stared directly back at Lin Dong with no signs of evasion. The gentle and bewitching emotion within her eyes caused Lin Dong to involuntarily turn his head. Only then, did she burst out in laughter. Lin Dong exhaled softly. After they cleaned up this battle, the war in the chaotic Demon Sea was officially over. Subsequently, after they stabilized the situation in the Demon region and the Western Xian region, it was likely time to engage in a final decisive battle with the Devil Prison. Are they monitoring the upper echelon of the Devil Prison? Lin Dong looked in the direction of the 4 Xian regions before he muttered. At this moment, an icy blue figure was seated on a mountain peak at the border of the distant eastern and western Xian region. Suddenly, as if she detected something, she opened her pretty eyes before she looked towards the chaotic demon sea. Finally, she slowly clenched her small hands, which were covered with snow-white gloves. Has he left his seclusion? The Alliance army had finally achieved victory in the chaotic demon sea war. Although this was partly due to Lin Dong's participation, a larger part of the reason was because the Devil Prison army did not obtain any reinforcements. In such a situation, the Yimo naturally did not have much of a chance against the united Chaotic Demon Sea Alliance. Despite this, the Chaotic Demon Sea Alliance still spent a full 5 days in order to eliminate these Yimo after the end of the war. Only then were the Yimo completely routed from the Chaotic Demon Sea. The war had ended. However, the sea regions which had been occupied by the Devil Prison army were terrible states. Demonic chi had even seeped into the sea water, causing all life to die. Many sea regions were filled with various floating corpses, while a stench engulfed the entire place. The eyes of everyone from the Alliance army turned red upon seeing this tragedy. These Yimo were far too brutal and cruel. Peace would be impossible until these Yimo were completely eradicated. However, they clearly did not have much time to purify the sea regions that had been polluted by demonic chi. The moment the war within the Chaotic Demon Sea ended, the Alliance army began to split into two under Tang Xinlian's command. Half would support the 4 Xian region alliance, while the other half would support the Demon region. Only by quickly eliminating the Yimo in the 3 regions would they be able to engage the Devil Prison in a decisive battle without any worry. After musing for a moment, Lin Dong led half of the Alliance army and headed for the 4 Xian region. It was after all a little closer to the western Xian region. Although Ying Huan's group was constantly observing Devil Prison, it was best for him to hurry over as soon as possible to avoid any unexpected situations. It was likely that with Tang Xinlian leading the other half of the Chaotic Demon Sea Alliance army towards the Demon region would be able to swiftly turn things around and resolve the unrest there. Tang Xinlian greatly supported this arrangement by Lin Dong. Hence, after the situation of the Chaotic Demon Sea was stabilized, the two of them led an army each, and headed towards the east and west respectively. Eastern Xian region, Sunset Plains. This was the border between the Eastern Xian region and Southern Xian region. It was also where the 4 Xian region alliance army was located. Facing them on the plains 100 miles away was the invading Devil Prison army. The 4 Xian region alliance army were currently training on the plains, as shouts filled the sky. A couple of figures were standing in front of the army, while a slim figure stood at the head of this group. She wore a black dress and had a beautiful figure. However, her pretty and exquisite face was currently filled with murderous desire. Those pitch-black night sky-like pretty eyes slowly swept over the vast and endless plains. Who else could it be other than Qing Tan? At this moment, she was not only the master of Darkness Palace, but also the alliance chief of the 4 Xian region alliance. Although she was very young, she had already proven her position as commander through the many bloody battles with Devil Prison over the past year. Hence, the countless pairs of eyes on the plains were filled with respect when they looked at her. Ling Qingzhu wore a white dress as she stood behind Qing Tan. She had a distant demeanor. That extremely pretty and seemingly flawless face of hers seemed to appear even more full of life than the past for some reason. Moreover, there was a mysterious faint scent on her that caused respect and fear to rise in the hearts of anyone who saw her. While Ling Qingzhu observed the plains, her expression suddenly changed, and she turned her head to look at the distant sky. An intense spatial fluctuation had suddenly appeared. Soon after, a large number of figures rushed out like a swarm of locusts. Their overwhelming aura caused the land to shake. Warning sirens immediately erupted within the 4 Xian region alliance in response to this unexpected situation. Soon after, countless figures rose into the air as Yuan power dashed into the sky. There is no need to panic. Those are our allies from the Chaotic Demon Sea Alliance. Ling Qingzhu's voice spread at this moment. Only then did the tense atmosphere over the plains ease up. The Chaotic Demon Sea Alliance army? Could they have already finished off the Yimo in the chaotic demon sea? How impressive! Now that these brothers have come, we will no longer need to fear those Yimo. This time, we will definitely be able to exterminate them. Agreed. An earth-shaking cheer erupted from the 4 Xian Region Alliance army after their caution disappeared. Countless individuals waved their hands excitedly at the large locust-like army that was approaching from afar. That is, Big Brother Lin Dong. Although the coldness on her face had diminished slightly because of the arrival of the Alliance army, she still maintained her demeanor as the Alliance chief of the 4 Xian region. However, when she saw the figure at the front of the army, the coldness on her small face vanished. Her joyous appearance stunned the surrounding upper echelons of the 4 Xian region alliance. They only understood after hearing Lin Dong's name. By the side, Ling Qingzhu nodded her head as she looked towards the approaching army. Although her beautiful face still appeared distant, everyone could see some warmth appearing within her eyes. This involuntarily caused several people to quietly shake their heads. These two ladies were fancied by countless young and outstanding men within the 4 Xian region alliance. However, it seemed that there was little hope for these individuals. With such a monstrous rival, where would they find the courage to compete? The alliance army swiftly approached. Finally, they landed on the spacious plains. Lin Dong moved and directly appeared on the tall platform. Big Brother Lin Dong, Qingtan said in a happy voice, while her slim figure had already pounced over. Lin Dong hurriedly caught her. He held her small and narrow waist as he dotingly rubbed Qingtan's small head. He smiled and said, "You have already become the alliance chief of the 4 Xian region, yet you act as though you are a child." Qingtan grinned happily. Her pure and innocent appearance was completely void of the cold murderous aura she had when she was in the alliance. She looked like a naive young girl who was unaware of the world's affairs. However, only the experts from the alliance, who had tasted her tactics, knew just what kind of frightening methods hid under this seemingly silly appearance. Lin Dong smilingly chatted with Qingtan. After which, he looked at Ling Qingzhu and gave her a warm smile. The latter's usually aloof face reddened slightly upon seeing his smile and shifted her face to the side. "How is the situation here?" Lin Dong asked. "Our 4 Xian region alliance has been stuck in a stalemate with the Devil Prison Army. However, Big Brother Lin Dong, you should be aware that in terms of strength, our 4 Xian region is likely the weakest amongst the 3 great alliances. Hence, we have not been able to obtain the upper hand," Qingtan said somewhat helplessly. Lin Dong was unsurprised. Of the 4 Xian regions, the Western Xian region had already completely fallen under the control of Devil Prison. Thus, it was a little inferior when compared to the chaotic Demon Sea and Demon Region alliances. It was already rather good that Qingtan's group could hold out till now. "No problem. I have brought half of the chaotic Demon Sea alliance over. This should be sufficient to eliminate this Devil Prison army," Lin Dong grinned and said. Qingtan nodded her small head. With these reinforcements, the situation would definitely become one-sided. Lin Dong pulled Qingtan and approached Ling Qingzhu. He was suddenly stunned when he looked at her, and it was clear that he had detected something strange about the latter. Moreover, the thing that surprised Lin Dong the most was the fact that he was unable to detect Ling Qingzhu's current cultivation level. "No need to keep sensing, I have already released all of my yuan power," Ling Qingzhu faintly smiled and said when she felt Lin Dong's gaze. "Released?" Lin Dong was startled. He said in a somewhat stunned voice, "Why have you released your yuan power?" "Now, you." Lin Dong paused at this point. Although he was indeed unable to detect any yuan power fluctuations from Ling Qingzhu, he could vaguely feel a familiar feeling emanating from her. Ling Qingzhu extended her hand, and faint primal chaos light suddenly gathered within it. A mysterious and powerful ripple pulsed. "This is Zenith power?" Lin Dong let out a startled voice. This was the power from sensing the Zenith. "Yes. I have chosen to take a different path. Instead of cultivating yuan power, I am meditating the Zenith and absorbing its power into my body." Ling Qingzhu nodded. "Even I do not know what cultivation level I am at now. However, It seems that I am much stronger than before. Even with Lin Dong's mental fortitude, he involuntarily gasped. What was choosing to take a different path? Was there another path in this world other than practicing Yuan power or mental energy? Lin Dong was aware that this path was to absorb Zenith power. However, how many people in this world could detect the Zenith? Moreover, even if they did, how would it be possible for them to absorb Zenith power into their body? This was likely something that even Lin Dong could not do. Additionally, Ling Qingzhu was also a little too bold. She had simply gotten rid of the Yuan power she had painstakingly cultivated for dozens of years at a whim. This was even more decisive than his destruction of the Niwen Palace. It is only possible to maintain a pure heart and to sense the Zenith without other powers. This actually seems to be pretty good. Ling Qingzhu softly said. Her beautiful face gave off an ethereal fairy-like feeling. She had a distant demeanor to begin with. Now that this feeling was added, she truly appeared like a fairy descending upon the mortal realm. Lin Dong rubbed his nose. Originally, he had thought that he was quite abnormal. He never imagined that Ling Qingzhu was worse. Even he had never thought of such a thing. It seemed that Ling Qingzhu clearly had a much greater talent than him when it came to sensing this so-called Zenith. Leave the chaotic Demon Sea Alliance army to Qingtan and I. We will finish off this devil prison army. Now, I suggest you go and visit her. Ling Qingzhu lifted a bundle of her fine black hair. Her clear eyes looked at Lin Dong as she spoke. Huh? Lin Dong was taken aback. Soon after, he quickly recovered. Ying Huan Huan? What happened to her? You should go and take a look. It should be possible for you to detect where they are. Ling Qingzhu shook her head and said. Unease rose within Lin Dong's heart. He quickly nodded. Without further ado, silver light flashed and he disappeared. Ling Qingzhu sighed softly after seeing Lin Dong disappear. This video will end here.